Welcome back to Han's Story, where every mystery begins with a whisper and ends with a shiver. Today's tale takes us to a forgotten beach, a place the locals learned to avoid, after 3 girls vanished without a trace. But 7 years later, what the ocean returned was more terrifying than their disappearance. This is a fictional story inspired by mysterious themes. All characters, locations, and events are entirely made up and not based on real people or incidents. If you're a fan of dark mysteries, haunting disappearances, and unexpected twists, then you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next chilling episode. Are you ready to dive into the mystery? Let's begin. They arrived just before sunset. The tires of the old gray van crunched against the gravel road leading down the bluff. It was a long, narrow path with overgrown weeds and patches of sea fog curling low like smoke. Emily Rowe was behind the wheel, singing along to the radio with a carefree lilt in her voice, her left hand dancing out the window to the rhythm. Zoe Marin was leaning back in the passenger seat, oversized sunglasses hiding half her face, lazily scrolling through her phone. And in the back seat, Sarah Klein clutched her camera like it was a newborn, her eyes wide with the kind of curiosity only someone deeply in love with forgotten places could carry. They were all 19, fresh out of high school and ready for the summer of their lives before university would inevitably split them up. Seabridge Bay wasn't on the tourist maps. It was the kind of beach you only heard about through whispers, a place someone's cousin might have found years ago while avoiding the main roads. It's beautiful, Emily had promised. Totally untouched. No crowds, no rules, no noise. They parked near a clearing in the dune grass and began unloading their things: a tent, a cooler, a cheap Bluetooth speaker, towels, and of course, their bikinis. The sand stretched endlessly in both directions. The only sound was the gentle crashing of the waves and the distant screech of gulls. "Feels like we're the last people on Earth," Sarah said, holding her camera up for a panoramic shot. "That's the idea," Emily grinned. "No parents, no drama, just the sea, the stars, and us." They set up camp right above the tide line, careful to leave the tent well out of reach from the waves. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the 3 of them danced barefoot in the sand, their laughter echoing down the coast. They took turns recording videos, tossing a frisbee and skipping stones into the darkening water. At 8:47 p.m., Zoe sent a group text to her mother that simply said, "All good, be home by midnight, love you." That was the last anyone ever heard from any of them. The next morning, a fisherman named Graham Moresby, who often came to Seabridge early to collect clams, found their tent abandoned. The cooler was still full. Their speaker had died sometime in the night, frozen on the last playlist. 3 beach towels lay flat, undisturbed, as if their owners had only stepped away for a swim. There were no drag marks, no footprints heading inland, no signs of a struggle. The only strange thing, each towel had a single seashell placed in the center. 3 shells, all identical, smooth white, unbroken, and wet as though freshly pulled from deep underwater. The search lasted weeks. Helicopters scanned the area. Divers combed the sea. Police dogs were brought in, but none caught a scent past the waterline. The case eventually went cold. Emily, Zoe, and Sarah became just another sad headline. 3 girls lost at Seabridge Bay, presumed drowned. Their families never held funerals, only vigils. 7 years later, in the summer of 2019, something changed. It was a Wednesday. Around 5:30 a.m., a local named Theo Remmer was out walking his dog along the same beach. The town was trying to clean up Seabridge to attract more visitors, and Theo had volunteered to help pick trash. As his dog tugged at the leash near a sandbar, Theo noticed something caught in a collapsed lobster trap that had washed ashore. It was fabric faded, tangled, but unmistakably bikini cloth. 3 pieces. He pulled them free and stared, heart suddenly thudding. They were discolored by time and salt, but still intact, and each piece had something off. On the inside, near the left chest, each bikini top had a small tear, a jagged puncture, same spot, same size, almost like someone had deliberately pierced them right over the heart. He didn't take them home. He called the sheriff. The entire beach was closed off within hours. Samples were taken. Photos compared. And within days, the authorities confirmed what the families had feared for years. The bikinis belonged to Emily, Zoe, and Sarah. No one could explain how they'd ended up there in nearly perfect condition after all this time, especially not with those deliberate, unnatural cuts. Even stranger marine biologists from the state lab said the trap that had ensnared the bikinis hadn't been in the water more than a month. So where had the bikinis been for the last 7 years? And who had returned them? The sheriff didn't sleep that night. Sheriff Dana Whitaker had worked the original Disappearance back in 2012. It was her second year on the job. She remembered the empty tent, the untouched towels, the odd seashells. And she remembered the guilt, that cold, constant guilt for never finding a body, a clue, a trace of where the girls had gone. The case became her first public failure, a permanent smear on her badge. But now in 2019, when the evidence reappeared out of nowhere, something inside her reignited. "This isn't closure," she whispered, looking at the photos of the bikinis under the crime lab's fluorescent lights. "This is a message." She returned to Seabridge Bay 2 days later, accompanied by a small forensic team and an anthropologist from Callista State University. They planned to scan the shoreline, look for bone fragments, and maybe, just maybe, get answers. What they didn't expect to find was buried just 40 feet from the original campsite. It started with a noise. One of the cadaver dogs, a black Labrador named Scully, started barking near the dunes, the same patch of land the girls had camped near. Scully wouldn't stop pawing at the sand. Dana gave the order to dig. 2 feet down, they found something odd. Not a bone, not a body, but a plastic case wrapped tightly in thick canvas and tied with red cord. The fabric was soaked and half decayed, but the plastic underneath was nearly pristine. Inside was a camcorder, early 2000s VHS-style, sand-scratched and barely holding together. They didn't dare play the tape there. Instead, they sealed it, logged it, and brought it back to the station's media department. It took 2 hours of delicate work and a restored VHS deck to get the footage to play. And then silence filled the room. The video opened with a familiar face, Sarah Klein. She was holding the camera at arm's length, smiling, panning toward Zoe and Emily, who were laughing near the fire. The timestamp read June 17, 2012, 8:41 p.m., just minutes before they vanished. The footage showed them roasting marshmallows, dancing to music, running barefoot along the tide. Then, just before the tape began to glitch, it captured something strange. From the far end of the beach, a light dim and blue flickered once in the distance. Then again. Then, it didn't blink. It stayed. Sarah zoomed in. The video went grainy, but they all seemed to stop what they were doing. Zoe walked toward the camera. "You guys see that?" she asked. "That light, it's not the moon." Emily nodded. "It's just a boat, right? Like one of those science vessels or something." "Too close," Sarah said. "Way too close. And it's not moving." The camera panned again. A moment later, the light grew brighter. And then the last 5 seconds of the tape, the screen caught a figure. A silhouette, standing at the edge of the water. Alone. Still. It wasn't one of the girls. The figure was tall, wearing something long and dark that flapped in the wind. They stood just outside the light of the fire, watching. And then the camera fell. There was a scream. And static, Jesus whispered Officer Malik, pulling his chair away from the screen. That thing, that wasn't human. Sheriff Dana rewound the tape 3 times, staring frame by frame at the figure. She couldn't make out a face, just the shape, slender, unmoving, as if it had risen straight out of the ocean. And something about its arm. It was too long, not bent right. They enhanced the frames, sent copies to state forensics. And while they waited, Dana made one decision: the dunes had to be searched again, thoroughly. This time with ground-penetrating radar. 3 days later, the radar team arrived. Under the burning sun, they swept the beach in grids. Most of what they found were small bottle caps, fishing hooks, shells, driftwood. But around 2:10 p.m., the machine gave a sharp ping. A rectangular shape 3 feet long, buried 4 feet deep. Man-made. They marked the sand and dug. It wasn't a coffin. It was a box rusted and sealed with 4 latches. A toolbox, maybe once red, now brown with corrosion. They opened it on sight, surrounded by silence. Inside were 3 objects. A bracelet woven thread with Sarah's name stitched into it. A burnt Polaroid photo, the edges charred but the center clear enough to see Emily's face, and half of someone else's standing behind her, too blurry to identify. A silver coin, old and unmarked except for a carving on one side, a triangle with a vertical slit through its center, identical to the tears in the bikinis. No one spoke for a long time. That night, Sheriff Dana sat in her office staring at the coin under a magnifying glass. Something about it unnerved her. Not just its age, but its design. Primitive, deliberate. It didn't look like currency. It looked like a symbol. And that triangle, she'd seen it before. Not on a map, not in a file. But etched into the driftwood post at the entrance to Seabridge Bay. A post locals thought was just old debris. Only now she remembered years ago someone had told her it was a marker, that this beach had once been considered unusable land by the indigenous people of the area, a place avoided, because things came from the water that weren't supposed to. She opened an old regional archive book and flipped pages until she found it. An entry dated 1883, the Bay of the Hollow Ones. 3 women were taken, only the ocean spoke. Her hands trembled. The pattern was older than she imagined, and it had happened before. Sheriff Dana Whitaker had stared at the photograph for nearly 20 minutes without blinking. The Polaroid. The one found inside the rusted box was no ordinary keepsake. It was taken at night, illuminated only by the warm flicker of firelight. In it, Emily stood smiling, head tilted back as if mid-laughter. Her features were crystal clear despite the photo's age and the burn damage along the corners. But just behind her, slightly to the left, emerging from the dark, was another face. At first glance, it looked like Zoe, but upon closer inspection, it wasn't any of the 3 girls. The face was long, pale, blurred, almost stretched, and the eyes were wrong, too big, too round, and staring directly at the camera unblinking. Dana zoomed in frame by frame on her laptop. She brightened, sharpened, isolated. But no matter what she did, the image became more uncanny, not clearer, not a shadow, not a trick of light. Someone or something had been there that night close enough to be burned into film. And yet no one remembered seeing it. No one had reported it. And no one knew who or what it was. "I want the fire circle excavated," Dana said into her radio the next morning. "Every inch of sand they sat on. Sift everything. We're missing something." Forensics returned to the site this time, armed with finer tools. They removed the topsoil dug carefully and ran ultraviolet scans. That's when they found the char marks. A perfect circle 10 feet wide in the exact place the girls had made their fire. Beneath the ash, someone had carved into the sand a crude, deliberate symbol, the same triangle with a slit down its center, directly under where the logs had burned. It hadn't been drawn with a stick. It had been scraped like with fingernails or bone. And beside the triangle they found 3 finger-sized pits, small holes in the sand, all equidistant. As if something had stood there, waiting. Meanwhile, back in town, Dana visited the Seabridge Public Library. She pulled every book microfilm and local archive she could find on indigenous markings, old water symbols, and Seabridge Bay legends. That's when she found the Hollow Ones. It was a half-published journal, unfinished, written in 1926 by a folklorist named Helen M. Grisham. It had never gone to print, but the notes were meticulous. The Hollow Ones are not ghosts nor spirits in the common sense. They are ancient, from before language, before borders. Their mark is the eye split. Open a triangle with a single line. They are not seen unless they want to be. They do not speak. They do not kill. They choose. Dana's breath caught. She flipped to a sketched diagram. It was the exact same triangle symbol found on the coin. Helen's notes continued. The stories all say the same thing. Once every few decades they call someone from the shore. It's always 3, always female. No blood, no violence. only the echo of their laughter caught in the wind. But that wasn't all. In the back of the journal, Helen had written a list: occurrences Seabridge or nearby coastlines, each one matching a pattern. 1883, 3 lighthouse keepers vanished, no bodies. 1921, 3 sisters disappeared on a picnic, shoes found untouched. 1967, 3 teenage girls seen wading into water, never seen again. No waves, no scream. 2012, Emily Rose Zoe Marin Sarah Klein. Always 3. Always female. Always near Seabridge Bay. It wasn't coincidence. It was a cycle. That night, Dana sat alone in her home office, surrounded by maps and photos. The breeze outside howled against the windows, and she realized with dread they were entering June again. Another cycle could be coming. Or worse, maybe it had never ended. Her phone buzzed. It was Officer Malik. "Sheriff," he said, voice low, "I think you should come to the station. We pulled up more footage from the camcorder's corrupted tape. It's not much, but there's audio." She grabbed her keys without a word. Back at the station, the media tech loaded the grainy clip. It was black screen, just the sound of the ocean at first. Then, wind. And then a faint voice. Not screaming. Singing. 3 voices, female, in harmony. No lyrics, just a low, eerie melody that rose and fell with the waves. Then one voice cut out, then another. And then a final whisper so faint, Dana had to put on headphones to hear it clearly. "He sees through water. We are beneath." The clip ended. Silence. For the first time in her career, Dana felt something she hadn't let herself feel since 2012. Terror, not of a killer, but of something watching, waiting, choosing. She walked outside into the night air, and from the distant shoreline of Seabridge Bay, she swore she saw a blue light flickering once, then again, and then staying. The blue light was still there at dawn. Sheriff Dana Whitaker stood at the edge of Seabridge Bay, staring at the still water where the strange flickering had appeared hours before. The ocean was calm, windless, not even a boat in sight. Yet the image of that soft, unblinking light haunted her. She hadn't dreamed it. And that phrase from the tape still echoed in her mind. "He sees through water. We are beneath." She took the coin from her pocket. Heavy, cold, not like anything she'd ever handled before. Something about the way it caught the light made it look deeper than it was, like a lens, not a surface. Back at the station, she placed it under a microscope. To the naked eye, it was just silver, but under magnification, it was more complex, a fine circular pattern etched into the triangle's border, almost like grooves. Not random, deliberate, as if it were meant to turn or fit into something. But what? That afternoon, she called Dr. Elliot Vance, an archaeological linguist from Callista State University. He had experience with obscure symbols and pre-colonial coastal rituals. Within hours, he was in her office staring at the coin, speechless. "This," he whispered, "this isn't symbolic. It's mechanical." Dana blinked. "Come again." He slid his gloved hand over the coin's edge. "The etching here, this isn't just ceremonial. It's made to interact with something, like a seal or a key." Dana's blood went cold. She took him to the bay. They returned to the driftwood post near the campsite, the one some locals said was just debris, but now she knew better. Carved into the post, almost erased by time and salt, was that same triangle symbol. Only now she noticed something else. A small circular hole in the center of the triangle. Barely visible, but just the size of the coin. Elliot raised an eyebrow. "Do you have any idea what happens if we insert it?" Dana stared at the waterline. "I don't," she said. "But we're about to find out." She inserted the coin. At first, nothing happened. Then a click, the sound of metal rotating. From somewhere below, the sand gears shifted slow and rusty. The driftwood post began to sink, groaning as if pulled downward by something. The sand around it collapsed slightly. Then silence. But the moment the post disappeared completely beneath the surface, the ocean changed. A current began pulling inward, not violently, but unnaturally precise, as if directed. In less than a minute, the tide shifted several feet out, revealing a stone platform that no one had ever seen before. Elliot's mouth opened. This was built, he said, by someone who understood tidal mechanics centuries ago, maybe longer. On the stone was an opening, not a cave, not a hole. A perfect circle 5 feet across descending into blackness, a chamber. And above it, etched into the stone, were 3 words: he never left. They didn't go down that day. Elliot insisted they bring a research team. Dana wanted backup divers' drones, anything that could map what was beneath. She wasn't going to be reckless, but she also wasn't going to back away, because now finally she had leverage over the mystery. Something hidden wanted to be found, and she was listening. But she didn't go home that night. She stayed in the station reviewing the audio again, rewinding, pausing, listening for something more. And she heard it. Just before the whisper, beneath the voices, was a faint sound. Knocking. From somewhere deep underwater. The next morning everything changed. At 7:14 a.m., beach workers found a girl's bracelet washed up on the shore, blue and yellow beads, with the name Emily on it. The same one her parents swore she'd been wearing the day she disappeared. Then at 9:02 a.m., a jogger discovered something buried shallow in the dunes, a cloth bag. Inside, a small child's drawing crumpled but intact. 3 stick figures on a beach, one figure drawn upside down as if submerged. A bottle with a message. The sea holds us because it was promised our names, and a photo one that no one could explain. It was recent, dated June 2, 2019. It showed the missing girls, Emily, Zoe, Sarah, standing barefoot near the shoreline, faces blurry but unmistakably them. And behind them, just like the old Polaroid, was a 4th figure, taller, dark, watching. Dana dropped the photo. This was taken after the coin was turned, she whispered. They weren't just part of the mystery anymore. They were trying to speak. That night, Seabridge Bay shook. Locals reported strange tremors. No earthquakes registered, but the water receded for miles like a breath being held. And far out beyond the horizon, fishermen swore they saw something breach the surface. Not a whale, not a boat. A spire, smooth, black like stone, rising from the ocean like a monument. And at 3:11 a.m., the town's early warning system lit up with a silent alert. Unidentified signal detected near Seabridge Bay source. Subaquatic, frequency repeating, phrase we remember. Sheriff Dana Whitaker had always believed in facts, in light, in things that could be explained. But as she stood at the rim of the stone opening, the one the coin had unlocked, and stared into the spiral stairs that led downward into pure darkness, she knew she was no longer in the world of facts. This was a place meant to stay hidden. She clipped a body cam to her vest, activated her flashlight, and began to descend. Each step groaned beneath her. The stone was damp. The air was cold, not ocean cold, but cellar cold, like something preserved for centuries. The deeper she went, the more she noticed the walls weren't stone anymore. They were something smoother, black-veined, like polished obsidian, but warm to the touch. She stopped when she saw the first carving. It was the triangle, again. But now it was surrounded by faces, dozens of them, all female, their mouths open, not in fear, in song. 3 levels down, she reached a chamber. The walls pulsed faintly, like breathing. In the center was a platform. On it sat 3 items. A blue ribbon tied in a bow, frayed but still holding shape. A clump of hair braided and knotted at the end with seaweed. A small cassette tape labeled in fading ink, Emily, June 2012. Her hand trembled as she picked up the tape. Suddenly the walls shimmered. A sound bloomed through the chamber, not music, but echoed laughter. Light and distant. The sound of teenage girls laughing in the summer wind. Then a scream. One sharp silenced quickly. The lights on her camera flickered. Dana turned to leave. But the stairs behind her had changed. No longer stone, they had become roots thick and knotted, curling like tentacles. Living, breathing. A voice rose behind her, a girl's voice, soft and close. "You shouldn't be here." She spun around, no one. Just the platform, the ribbon, the hair, the tape. And a new item now sitting beside them. A photo of Dana taken from behind, standing on the stair. She bolted up the stairs, heart thundering. Her flashlight blinked out. She ascended blind, her fingers scraping the walls. And as she emerged breathless onto the beach, she realized it was night, though it had been morning when she descended. 3 full hours had passed. The sky was glowing faintly red over Seabridge Bay. Back at the station, she played the tape. It began with static. Then the sound of girls talking Emily, Zoe, Sarah, giggling, talking about who was going to build the fire, who brought marshmallows. Then one of them, Sarah by the voice, said, "Did you guys hear that?" Silence. Then a new voice, not theirs. Not human. It didn't speak words, just a humming low and wet like something deep underwater. The girls screamed. And then it cut off. The town's phones began ringing at midnight. Locals reporting visions, seeing the 3 girls walking near their homes. Always in threes. Always barefoot. Never speaking. Just watching. And always near water. Dr. Elliot Vance called Dana the next morning breathless. He'd been researching coastal tomb legends from 300 BC, and in a near-forgotten account by a Phoenician explorer, he found this line: "When the water sings and 3 return, beware, for they are no longer the same, and the watcher beneath waits for his next promise." Dana asked what promise meant. He paused. A sacrifice, to keep him sleeping. The photos, the tape, the chamber, none of them were just clues. They were warnings, and something had changed. Seabridge Bay wasn't hiding a secret anymore. It was sharing it. Sheriff Dana Whitaker was already on edge when the front desk at Seabridge Police Department called her up. "There's someone here asking for you. Says he knows about the girls." Dana blinked. "Who?" "An old man. Says his name is Marvin Pike, from Clearwater. But he's odd. Keeps saying he was here before, in '67. Dana's heart slowed. There was no Seabridge Bay in 1967. The town had been officially chartered in 1984. Before that, the entire stretch of coastline was listed as uninhabitable marshland. Yet 5 minutes later, a thin man with deep-set eyes and a limp walked into her office. His clothes were too clean for a drifter, but his face was too tired for a tourist. He had a photo in his hand. Without a word, he placed it on her desk. A black-and-white photograph, time-worn and creased. It showed the same stone circle Dana had just descended into days ago. Same triangle symbol. But this one had 4 people standing around it. 3 young women. And a man who looked exactly like Marvin Pike, just 50 years younger. He finally spoke. "I was 16. We snuck in through the fence back when the military still controlled this coastline. My sister Claire and her 2 best friends. We thought it was just an abandoned outpost." He paused. "We heard humming, like a song. Not mechanical, living. My sister went into the hole. We thought she was just trying to scare us, but she never came back." He pointed to the photo. "That was the last picture I took before she vanished. I never saw her again. And there was no town to come back to. Just wilderness." Dana leaned forward. "Why are you here now?" Marvin's eyes filled with something that looked like reluctant duty. "Because 3 more have gone, and the sea doesn't take without giving signs." Dana showed him the recent photo, the one of the missing girls near the water, dated June 2nd, 2019. Marvin's hands trembled. That place never forgets their faces, even after time swallows them. He pulled out a weathered journal from his coat. "My sister kept this. I took it from her room after she vanished. Thought it was just teenage nonsense." He flipped to a page and pointed. Dana read the line. "The triangle isn't just a door, it's a cycle. Every 7 years it opens, and the sea always asks for 3. Dana checked the dates. 2012, Emily, Zoe, Sarah disappeared. 2005, 3 teenage surfers presumed drowned. 1998, group of hikers lost off the cliffs, never recovered. 991, she stopped. It fit almost perfectly. Every 7 years, always 3, always near Seabridge. Why hasn't anyone said anything, she asked. Marvin exhaled. Because the town forgets. It's like something wipes it away. The grief stays, but not the cause, like a fog over memory. He pointed to her badge. "You remember because you were meant to break the cycle." That night, Dana sat on the beach again. Alone. She held the photo of the 2019 girls in one hand and the 1967 one in the other. 2 different eras. Same pattern. Same dark figure standing behind the girls, unchanged by time. Suddenly her radio cracked. "Sheriff, you're gonna want to see this. East Dunes, right now." She drove there in minutes. A patrol officer pointed to something buried half in sand exposed by the shifting wind. Dana knelt down. It was a metal plaque embedded deep. She brushed off the grains until the words shone clear under her flashlight. It read, "This gate is not to be opened. Property of the U.S. Naval Research Division locked permanently. June 6, 1967. She stood slowly, her throat dry. This wasn't the first time the government had found the triangle. They had tried to bury it, and now it had opened again. Later that night, Marvin disappeared. Left no note, no sign. Just his sister's journal placed carefully on Dana's desk. And one more page folded and marked. Next cycle begins June 6, 2026. The girls aren't gone. They're waiting for the next 3. June 19, 2019, exactly 1 week after the plaque was uncovered in the dunes. Sheriff Dana Whitaker arrived at the precinct before sunrise, bleary-eyed and coffee-starved, only to find her entire station in quiet panic. Officer Tate met her at the door, face pale. "She's in your office." "Who?" "Says her name is Emily Gardner." Dana stopped cold. Emily Gardner was one of the 3 girls who disappeared on July 8, 2012. Presumed drowned. Her bikini had been among the ones found a few weeks ago. Her photo was on the missing persons wall. And now she was apparently sitting in Dana's chair. Dana opened the door slowly. The girl inside looked no older than 17, pale, wet hair tied in a low braid, eyes dark and off. She wore a hospital gown even though no hospital had admitted her. And when she turned to Dana, she smiled. "Hi, Sheriff. You're the one who found the tape, right?" Dana stared. "Emily?" She nodded. "I've been waiting, but it's not time yet." Her fingerprints matched. Her DNA matched. Her dental records matched. There was no doubt this girl was Emily Gardner. But she hadn't aged a day. Not a wrinkle, not a scar. As if 2012 had only been yesterday. They put her in observation. Brought in psychiatrists, federal agents, even a priest. Emily didn't resist, but she wouldn't explain much either. She only said the same phrase over and over again. "We were chosen. We saw what's beneath. We are his voice now." And sometimes she'd hum. The same low aquatic melody from the cassette tape Dana had found. That night, Dana returned to the site, the opening in the dunes where the triangle door had been. It was gone, covered again, as if the wind had never exposed it. But in the sand, someone had drawn 3 symbols: a triangle, a spiral, a wave, and beneath them carved in perfect symmetry. 1 returned, 2 remain. Back at the station, Emily did something strange. She requested to speak to a mirror. They gave her one. She stared into it for 10 minutes, then turned to the camera and whispered, "She doesn't know yet, but she will." Dana reviewed the footage later and froze. In the reflection for a single frame, Emily's eyes changed black, endless, not human. And behind her, just for that flicker, stood 2 other figures, Zoe and Sarah. Also unchanged, also watching. At 3:33 a.m., Emily vanished from her holding cell. No one saw her leave. No doors opened. No cameras flickered. One moment she was there, the next gone. In her place on the cot, a single seashell, still dripping wet, and the same blue ribbon she wore in her 2012 yearbook photo. Sheriff Dana didn't sleep for 3 nights. Not because she was afraid Emily was gone, but because she was sure the girl had never left. She was inside the town now, moving unseen, waiting for the next part of the cycle, and maybe choosing who the next 3 would be. It started with small things. The framed missing persons poster outside the Seabridge Bay post office gone. The file Dana kept on her desk marked 2012 Disappearance Gardner, Zoe, Lewis empty, as if nothing had ever been in it. Even her own computer, the folder named Triangle Tapes, now simply said, "Archive empty." She thought it was a virus. Then she asked her deputy Mark about the tapes. Tapes. The cassette we found in the chamber. Emily's voice. Emily, who... Dana froze. Emily Gardner. Zoe Madsen. Sarah Lewis. The girls from 2012. He looked at her like she was speaking another language. "Sheriff, I don't think those are real people. At first she thought she was losing her mind, but then she remembered Marvin Pike's words. The town forgets. It's like something wipes it away. The grief stays, but not the cause. She rushed to the old records hall, the physical files, the ones no one digitized. There, under a layer of mildew and time, she found a single manila folder that hadn't faded completely. Written in pencil on the tab, July 8, 2012. Beach incident. Inside, a single photo of 3 girls in swimsuits smiling in front of the Seabridge sign, a police sketch made from a witness statement, and a handwritten report with the last line underlined. No bodies recovered, no signs of struggle. But local boy says he saw them walk into the surf, hand in hand, smiling. She made copies, locked them in her car, hid one in her home freezer wrapped in foil. She called the boy from the report Lucas Eddings. He was now 21. He didn't answer, but he messaged her that night. I know what I saw. They didn't drown. They followed something. Like what? Like a song. I hear it sometimes still, especially after midnight, especially near water. The next morning his car was found submerged in the bay. Driver's seat empty. Inside the glove box, a soaked cassette tape, labeled simply, Zoe. Dana played it at the station. It started like the last one, beach sounds, laughter, then silence, and a voice. We remember you, Sheriff. Her blood went cold. We know you're trying to hold on, but memory is soft. You'll forget too. A pause. When the third comes home, there will be no record left, only the promise. That night, the mayor called her into a meeting. Small group, him a few council members, and a woman Dana didn't recognize. Sharp suit, government badge, no smile. Sheriff, she said coldly, we're declassifying all records related to Seabridge anomalies, per Naval Protocol 45B. You mean the triangle? The woman blinked. I mean the Seabridge absence phenomenon. That's the official term. The triangle is a symbol. The real problem is time. Dana stared. You're saying it's not just memory. It's history itself being rewritten. The woman didn't deny it. Every 7 years, the anomaly consumes 3. Anyone who resists the forgetting is marked. You're already marked. Then why haven't I forgotten? Because it wants you to see the end. Later that night, Dana's TV flickered on by itself. Black screen. Then the girls, all 3, walking into the ocean hand in hand, looking straight into the lens. It wasn't surveillance footage. It was a home video. The timestamp read June 6, 2026, 03:03 a.m. 3 years in the future, June 6, 2026, 03:03 a.m. The timestamp glowed on every screen in Sheriff Dana Whitaker's office. It had arrived, but something was different. The town didn't tremble. The triangle didn't open, and the sea was completely still. Dana had prepared for this moment for years. Since Emily Gardner reappeared and vanished again, since the town began to forget, since she found that future-dated footage showing the girls walking into the surf towards something waiting. She stood at the beach, now alone, but not afraid, because she remembered something Marvin Pike had written in the final pages of his sister's journal. If even one person remembers the truth, the cycle cracks. And Dana had never forgotten. She walked to the dunes where the triangle once stood. Nothing. Just sand and wind. But her memory led her, step by step, until her foot struck something solid. She dug, hands raw, nails bleeding, and then stone. She brushed it off. The triangle symbol still faintly carved beneath a thick layer of salt and time. She pressed her palm against it. Nothing happened, until she whispered, I remember their names. The stone shuddered. The sand rippled outward, revealing the seal now cracked. And then from deep beneath a hum began, that same melodic vibration heard on every tape. The sea began to move, but not like before. This time the waves pulled back as if making way, revealing a path. And on that path stood 3 girls hand in hand. Emily, Zoe, Sarah. Their eyes were glowing faintly blue, their skin untouched by time, but their expressions human, afraid, like they weren't there by choice. Dana stepped forward. Emily? Emily looked up. You broke it, Zoe whispered. We weren't supposed to remember. Sarah added, but because you did, we do too. Then The Watcher rose. Not a monster. Not a god. Just a formless shadow behind the girls, like smoke and water, like memory half forgotten. It didn't speak. It projected. Dana saw flashes. 1967 Marvin's sister screaming in the dark. 1991. 3 hikers standing frozen on the cliffs, unable to jump or turn back. 12. The girls smiling until the music came. And finally herself, standing on the beach, not as she was now, but as a little girl, holding a blue ribbon in her hand. Suddenly she remembered. She'd been here before. In 1991. She had seen the sea open once already, and she had forgotten. Until now. The Watcher sent its final image. A loop. A circle. Time spinning endlessly. Every 7 years it fed. Every 7 years someone witnessed. Until that witness forgot. But Dana remembered. And that memory unbroken was poison to the cycle. The girls stepped away from the Watcher. The shadow trembled. And then it did something no one expected. It retreated, folded back into the sea like smoke into a crack. And the ocean rushed forward, gently reclaiming the gap. The triangle vanished. And the hum stopped. Dana turned. The girls were gone. But in their place on the sand, 3 objects lay. A blue ribbon. A cracked camera with a burned-out tape inside. A stone with the names Emily, Zoe, Sarah etched perfectly in its surface. Over the next months, Seabridge changed. People remembered. The town held a memorial. Photos returned to the walls. Lucas Edding's car was pulled from the water empty, but with his name carved into the seat. No one else disappeared. And the sea stayed silent. On the 1-year anniversary, Dana found something new in her mailbox. No return address. Inside, a snapshot from the 1967 photo Marvin had shown her. But this one was colorized. And in the corner, standing just behind the group, barely visible, was a little girl with a blue ribbon in her hair, smiling. Just before the fog rolled in, what if Dana didn't break the cycle? What if she was always part of it? What if her remembering wasn't an accident? But exactly what the Watcher needed. Because now that someone had seen the full loop and understood it, the next cycle wouldn't need to be hidden anymore. It could start with the town watching. What do you believe the Watcher truly is? Did Dana save the girls? Or awaken something deeper? If this story haunted your thoughts, hit subscribe, follow Han's Story, and share this finale with someone who believes not all disappearances are accidental. Because sometimes the sea doesn't just take, it teaches us how to follow